My neighbor's teen daughter started babysitting for us. She was sweet. Respectful. Then my daughter started coming home with bruises. Nightmares. She said if I told, I'd be taken away. I lost it. When we confronted the parents, they called us abusive. CPS showed up. Took our kids. It took weeks of evidence, statements, video logs to clear our names. When we got our daughter back, she handed me a flash drive she'd hidden in her teddy bear. And said she recorded everything. We moved to Fishers, Indiana in the winter of 2022. It's a quiet suburb with wide streets and trimmed lawns, the kind of place where you think nothing bad can happen. My wife, Sarah, and I had been looking for a better place to raise our 2 kids. Tyler was 8, Maggie was 6. We found a nice little 2-story house at the end of a cul-de-sac. Neighbors waved. Kids rode bikes. It all felt safe. We met the Nelsons on our second day. Greg and Marcy. Polite smiles, tight handshakes. Their daughter Haley was 16. She had braces, neat hair, and a soft voice. Said she was an honor student. Offered to babysit any time. The first night we left her alone with the kids, we were nervous, like most parents would be. But we came back to both kids asleep, toys put away, dishes done. Haley texted me a picture of Maggie drawing with sidewalk chalk that afternoon. She seemed like a dream. She babysat for us maybe twice a week. Sometimes more if Sarah picked up a shift. Haley always smiled. Always said the kids were great. Tyler liked her. Maggie adored her. But about 2 months in, Maggie started acting off. She stopped talking as much. Started flinching when we reached for her too fast. She'd wake up screaming some nights. At first, we thought she might be getting sick. Or maybe she was stressed. But then I saw it, a bruise on her upper arm. It looked like a handprint. I asked her what happened. She wouldn't look at me. She said if I told, I'd be taken away. I didn't even have to ask who she was. My heart dropped. I told Sarah, and she turned pale. We knew we had to stop using Haley. We'd talk to the Nelsons later. The next day, I texted Haley that we wouldn't need her anymore. She replied with a thumbs up. No questions. But 2 days later, CPS knocked on our door. I opened the door to a woman with a clipboard and a man in a sweater vest. They said there'd been a report. They needed to come in and talk to our kids. They had the legal right. I froze. Sarah came down the stairs, and when I told her, she just stared. We didn't want to hide anything. We thought, this'll blow over. Just a mistake. They separated us. Interviewed the kids alone. That night, they took them. Said there were signs of emotional distress and unexplained bruises. That someone had reported shouting, threats, neglect. It didn't matter that we had no record. No history. No complaints. They took Maggie and Tyler and placed them with Sarah's sister for temporary custody pending investigation. I still remember Maggie crying as they walked her to the car. That night, I drank until I passed out. I couldn't look Sarah in the eyes. She barely said a word for 3 days. The next few weeks were hell. They combed through everything. My work emails. Sarah's pay stubs. Interviewed our friends, neighbors, the kids' teachers. We went to sleep every night wondering if we'd ever get our children back. We found out it had been an anonymous report. But parts of the language? It sounded familiar. It sounded like Haley. Then a friend of ours, a teacher who knew someone on the CPS team, told us the tip had included details only someone inside our home could have known. Things like which door Maggie used to run out when she got scared. The name of her teddy bear. That's when I knew. We begged CPS to look at Haley. They told us they couldn't share any info about an ongoing case. But slowly, statements started helping. Maggie's teacher told them she'd seen Maggie flinch when Haley picked her up from aftercare. A neighbor said she once saw Haley yank Tyler's arm hard enough to make him cry. We gave them our home security logs showing when Haley came and went. 3 weeks later, CPS cleared us. We went to pick up the kids. Maggie ran to me first, grabbed me around the waist and started crying. Then she looked up and whispered, "I didn't tell. I didn't tell." She reached into her teddy bear's back and pulled out a small plastic bag with a flash drive inside. She recorded everything, she said. I just stared at her. Sarah fell to her knees and held her. We got home and plugged the flash drive into my laptop. It had videos. Dozens of short clips. Black and white footage from the teddy bear's tiny camera eye. She must have figured out how to turn it on when Haley was around. One video had Haley screaming, "You're a stupid little brat. Sit down." Maggie was sobbing. Another showed Haley shoving Tyler. Another, her dragging Maggie by the arm across the floor. The sound of a slap. The sound of Maggie crying. But the worst was one where Haley was on the phone. No, they won't figure it out. I made it sound real. The CPS form's done. I said they yell and hit, and that the kids said they were scared. That's all it takes. She laughed. I hope that nurse chokes on her own lies. That's what she gets for messing with Aunt Jenna. That was it. Sarah threw up in the sink. I copied the files. We went straight to the CPS office. Didn't wait for a meeting. Slammed the laptop on the desk and hit play. The caseworker didn't even blink. Just listened. Watched. Then stood up and called someone. Haley was arrested 2 days later. We found out Greg and Marcy helped her file the false report. The whole thing was revenge. Sarah had reported a medication error months earlier, nearly cost a child their life. The nurse she reported was Haley's aunt. They used Maggie as their weapon. We filed charges. Civil, criminal. Everything we could. Haley got charged with endangerment, coercion, and false reporting. Her parents were slapped with conspiracy to commit fraud and obstruction. They cried in court. Said they were trying to protect their family. I don't care. They broke mine. CPS gave us a formal apology. That meant nothing to me. We're still in therapy. The kids have nightmares. Maggie clutches that teddy bear like it's a shield. Tyler doesn't like to be left alone. But we're healing. Slowly. And I'm not done yet. They thought they could use the system to destroy us. They didn't count on Maggie. They didn't know she was listening. She recorded everything. After the court hearing where Haley was formally charged, we thought things would start calming down. That maybe we could go back to a normal life. But I was wrong. What happened next almost broke us again. About a week after the arrest, Sarah's hospital started acting strange. Her supervisor pulled her into a meeting and said someone had made an anonymous complaint to HR. That she was unfit to work around children and had a pending child abuse investigation. We were cleared. CPS cleared us. The judge signed off. But someone was still coming after us. Sarah was put on leave. No pay. No timeline for return. We knew it had to be someone connected to the Nelsons. And I started to feel like maybe it wasn't just personal anymore. I started digging. I pulled old security footage. Went through every doorbell camera notification. I found a clip from the day after CPS took our kids. Greg Nelson had walked up to our porch and slid something into our mailbox. It was a large envelope, no return address. I checked our files, never saw it. Must have gotten lost in the chaos. Sarah and I tore through every drawer, every old stack of unopened mail, until finally, in the garage, inside a box of school papers I'd shoved aside during all the CPS madness, we found it. Inside the envelope was a printed-out letter. 4 pages. A typed-up anonymous report full of lies, about Sarah, about me, about our kids. Whoever wrote it knew things. Personal things. Things we'd only shared with neighbors. There was a second letter too. A signed witness statement. Signed T. Weller. Our neighbor Tanya Weller. She was the one who always waved. Always said hi. Her son played soccer with Tyler. I felt sick. I confronted her the next morning. She didn't even pretend. I saw bruises, she said flatly. I reported what I saw. You people weren't careful. You knew Haley was the one hurting them, I said. You lied. She's a good girl, Tanya said. She made a mistake. But you people brought this on yourselves. Your wife humiliated someone in her family. That has consequences. I just stood there. Rage boiling up. But I didn't touch her. I didn't even curse. Instead, I got in my car and drove to the county prosecutor's office. The flash drive Maggie had given us? I had backed up every file onto 2 separate drives. One was already in evidence. But I gave the second one to the state. With a note. I believe multiple adults participated in this abuse. And they're still trying to ruin us. They opened a new case. Tanya was subpoenaed. And that's when the next bomb dropped. Tanya broke. In court. She said she didn't make the statement. That she signed something she hadn't read, at the request of Marcy Nelson. That she was told, just help us protect Haley. She's scared. The prosecutor called it witness tampering. And that pulled everything wider. Turns out Greg Nelson had gone to at least 2 other neighbors. Asked them to back up a few things if CPS asked. Only one agreed. A man down the street who ended up admitting to it in exchange for no charges. They were all in on it. And now it was bigger than Haley. It was a neighborhood cover-up. Over a nurse doing her job. Over a damn hospital report. When the press got wind of it, everything exploded. Sarah's hospital put her back on schedule. Public apology. Full back pay. But she didn't return. She couldn't. Not after all that. We were offered a settlement. Sarah rejected it. She wanted a trial. And I wanted them all to burn. The trial date was set for late September. It was going to be a combined civil and criminal process, something rare, but the DA said it made sense given the layers of damage and how many parties were involved. By then, our lives looked nothing like they had a year earlier. Sarah was on edge every day. Tyler barely spoke to anyone. Maggie had started talking again, but only with her therapist or when she was at home. I'd lost my job. Not officially. Just restructured out of my role 2 months after all this began. We were broke, traumatized, and surrounded by people who had once waved at us with coffee mugs in their driveways. The trial started on a Monday. Haley pled not guilty. So did her parents. Tanya Weller didn't show up. She had fled the state 2 weeks earlier. The DA filed a bench warrant, but it didn't matter much, her signed statement was already under scrutiny, and the judge ruled it could be entered as coerced evidence. But none of that was the twist. That came on day 3. The defense attorney, a slick guy with too perfect hair and a smug voice, pulled out a document during cross-examination. One I'd never seen before. It was a record from Sarah's hospital. Dated before the medication incident. It was a performance review. One that mentioned Sarah had difficulty with interpersonal communication and displayed hostility towards certain team members. They tried to say Sarah had a pattern. That she targeted Haley's aunt out of spite, and that Haley had a right to feel unsafe around us. That Haley's reaction, though misguided, was emotionally driven and not malicious. I felt like my spine snapped in half. Sarah stared straight ahead. Didn't blink. But I knew that look. She was burning inside. During the break, I pulled her aside. What is that report? She hesitated. It was real, she said. But it wasn't about Jenna. It was from 2 years ago. A different hospital. A different manager. I was struggling with postpartum depression. I didn't want you to know. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. But inside, a part of me cracked. Because the second twist hit me right then. If that report got in front of the jury, if they used it to build a case that Sarah had it out for Jenna, and by extension Haley, our credibility could crack. And it did. The defense leaned on it hard. Framed Sarah as intimidating and vindictive. Made her look like a nurse with a chip on her shoulder. We had the truth. But they had doubt. And that's all it took. By week's end, the judge ruled Haley would be tried separately for the child endangerment charges. Her parents would only face obstruction and civil liability. The conspiracy charges were dropped pending further evidence. It felt like we were losing. Again. But then, Maggie stepped in. We didn't want her to testify. She was only 7 by now. Still fragile. But she told the therapist she wanted to. I want to say what she did, she said. Not just the videos. I remember. I can tell them. We cried. We begged her not to. But she wouldn't back down. And on day 10 of the trial, they called Maggie to the stand. She sat there in her little green dress, clutching the same teddy bear. She told the room what Haley did. The yelling. The pushing. The whispering threats. The room was dead silent. And then she said one more thing. She said if I didn't say Mommy hit me, I'd never see Daddy again. The courtroom gasped. I looked over at Haley. Her face dropped. Greg and Marcy stared straight ahead. Pale. Sarah sobbed. The DA asked Maggie, why didn't you tell anyone? She answered, I was scared. But I knew the bear would remember. And just like that, the jury's eyes shifted. From doubt to anger. We weren't out of the woods yet. But the tide had turned. The jury came back after 3 days. Haley was found guilty on 3 counts, felony child endangerment, witness intimidation, and filing a false report. Her sentencing was set for the following month. She cried as they led her out of the courtroom. Not once did she look at us. Not once did she say sorry. Greg and Marcy were found liable in civil court. Obstruction, coercion, and defamation. They didn't face jail time, but the judge hit them hard: restitution, punitive damages, court fees. Everything. They were ordered to pay over $600,000. But here's the part that matters: they lost their house. They had to sell it. Fast. To cover the first round of damages. A for sale sign went up 2 weeks after the verdict. By then, no one in the neighborhood spoke to them. Parents crossed the street when they walked by. Someone spray-painted liars across their garage. I won't say I felt sorry for them. Because I didn't. But it still wasn't over. Not for me. Because I'd made mistakes too. I let Sarah carry the weight of that job alone. I didn't see how broken she was getting before any of this even started. I drank instead of helping. I shut down instead of stepping up. After the trial, I sat her down and told her I wanted to fix it. All of it. We started counseling again. As a couple. It wasn't easy. There were nights I slept on the couch by choice. But slowly, we started learning how to talk again. Maggie kept going to therapy. She drew pictures. She started playing music. Tyler started smiling again. One night he told me, I like it when you stay home now. That hit me harder than anything in court. 6 months after the trial ended, I got a job offer: remote IT work, decent pay. We moved out of Fishers. Sold the house at a loss, but it was worth it to leave. We relocated to a smaller town in Ohio. Quiet. Nobody knew us. No looks. No whispers. One morning, while unpacking, Maggie came into the kitchen and held up the teddy bear. She said, "I don't think I need it anymore." We kept it anyway. As a reminder. Of what she did. Of what they did. Haley got 5 years. No parole for 3. She was tried as an adult. She'll be in until she's 21. Greg and Marcy filed for bankruptcy after their second appeal failed. Tanya Weller never came back. The state picked up charges against her in absentia. If she returns, she'll be arrested. Sarah never went back to nursing. She teaches online now. It's less money, but she sleeps through the night. As for me, I learned something I'll never forget. Trust is easy to give when life feels safe. When it looks like the world is full of good people. But monsters smile too. And sometimes they live right next door. I still have copies of the videos. Not out of spite. Not anymore. I keep them in a safe. Because someday, Maggie might want to see them again. Might want to remember how strong she was. How much power she had. At 6 years old, she saved our family. And she did it with a teddy bear. And a flash drive. That's all it took to bring the whole thing down.